Hey everyone, welcome to the video. Going over my cheat sheet for tomorrow's NASCAR race at New Hampshire. It's the Foxwoods Resort Casino 301. Anyway, before we continue, if you could leave a like, subscribe to the channel, I really appreciate that. You can also follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. And if you want access to extra content, my entire cheat sheet, which actually I revamped the whole entire thing. It's a new cheat sheet, and I updated the way I do stuff. So we got new projections on there, now a projected average, projected finish of where I think they're going to finish during the race, and my ranking system, kind of in these tiers really. Then I have my write-up I do every week, and you can get access to a Slack chat as well, which you can ask me all the questions you want all day. So I think that'd be really helpful for you, and you can just talk in the chat all day if you want. You're not going to bother me. And if you do hit the link in the description below, it will take you here, and then you can decide what you want. And the NASCAR cheat sheet is only $8 per month, so I think that's a pretty good value. That's $2 per race, so you really can't beat that in my opinion. But and then we have all access for $20 if you like all the other content I do. So anyway, that's just a quick little plug there, and we'll get back into the cheat sheet because that's why you guys are here. So first, let's go over a little bit of strategy and tips and about this race. So Foxwoods Resort Casino 301. We are at New Hampshire. So some track info. It's New Hampshire Motor Speedway. It's a flat track, an oval, and it's 1 mile in length, just about. And we have 301 laps, and the Dominator points available are about 225. And some strategy and tips for this track. We're going to want 1 to 3 Dominators with 225 Dominator points available. There's probably going to be 1 major Dominator, maybe 2 minor Dominators. So if the minor Dominators are cheap, you could get that in. But if it's guys like Kyle Busch, Truex, and Harvick, you obviously can't fit all those 3 guys in. So looking at 1 to 3 Dominators, and when I say 1 to 3, if I'm obviously going to have a big main guy, and then maybe there's a minor Dominator, like a guy like, let's say Kyle Larson. It's going to be hard for him though because he's starting in the rear, or maybe Ryan Blaney. I'll get into him later. So that would be the strategy for this. I'm looking at 10 lap averages because there's just so many laps. And it was hot during practice, and it's going to be about the same temperature tomorrow. It's like in the high 90s, so practice should correlate pretty decently, I would imagine. And we just want to look at track history from here and flat tracks as well, so which is what I did. So anyway, let's get into this. And first, let me go over some quick practice notes because practice was pretty busy this weekend. So Larson, Byron, Bowman, Newman, and Hamlin are all going to be to the rear, but they're going to be scored from where they qualified. So it doesn't really change anything because, I mean, they weren't all up front, so I don't think they're automatic fades. Actually, I do like quite a few of these guys. And for Bowman, he's the big headline this week. He wrecked his primary car during, was it qualifying? His was it drive track? Something like that. That went out, and then just in practice a little bit ago, he hit it again. So now he wrecked his backup car, and now he's using Jimmie Johnson's backup car. So that'll be interesting. I was going to be all in on him starting 37th, but maybe I'll dial that back a little bit just because of how much he's wrecking this weekend. So hopefully that doesn't carry into the race, but he's still a fantastic play. So that's enough of the notes. Let's get into my favorite plays. So the Dominators are these guys in the green here. I want to talk about Kyle Busch first. He's my favorite play of the weekend. So it's just Kyle Busch. I mean, he's starting second. Keselowski starting first, which could be a little bit of a concern. But Kyle Busch can dominate at any racetrack, and he's been very good here. So if we look at his practice, he was great. Third in the 10 lap in practice 2, second in practice 3, and he was third in the 15 lap in the final practice as well. And he's just dominated here. He's averaging 85 DraftKings points per race, 126 driver rating, which I believe is the highest. Yeah, right above Truex. He's at a ceiling of 149. His floor is 116. And for the driver rating, he's got the highest average finish of 5.2. He has one here. This is the past 5 races. And he's in the top 5 60% of the time. Always in the top 10 pretty much. So he's looking at as a fantastic play. He's averaging 90 laps led here, 49 fast laps. So he's my number 1 play of the weekend. I know he's the most expensive guy, but I think we can get him in there. And then Martin Truex, his teammate, he's in play for me too. He actually qualified pretty well this week, starting 6th. He really burned me last week. I was really high on Truex and Keselowski. I mean, it just made all the sense in the world for how good they were, but they just bombed last week, which sucked. Although I did have some Kyle Busch exposure, thankfully, but not enough. So Truex starting 6th. He was pretty good in practice as well. He was 4th in the 10 lap in P2, didn't run one in P3, and he was 4th in the 15 lap, so he's looking like a strong car. 84 DraftKings points per race here. He's pretty much a mirror image of Kyle Busch, basically. So but he doesn't have any wins in the past 5 races, but he's still, I mean, if you just look at Kyle Busch's numbers, he's basically the same driver here. driver here, but he is actually averaging more laps led per race, but slightly less fast laps. So I do like Martin Truex a lot. They're the 1A and 2A, 1A and 1B there. And then Kevin Harvick, he is 11,100. I had these listed in order of salary, by the way. So Kevin Harvick, he's starting 14th. So interesting thing with him is he's going to give us some place differential upside. You know, he could always get up front. He was pretty strong in practice, not up there with Kyle Busch, but he was pretty close. 6th in the 10 lap in P2, 5th in P3, 7th in the 15 lap. So he doesn't have the absolutely high-end speed as some of these guys, but I mean, he's still Kevin Harvick. Although he has not gotten that win this year, he's been a little bit disappointing in that department, and he is only averaging 47.5 DraftKings points per race here, 102 driver rating, so that's good. But he does have 2 wins, so that is what I like there. He's got good track history here. He's in the top 5 80% of the time, averaging 4 laps led per race in the last 5. So I know one of the races he won, I believe it was then he bumped someone and passed them near the end. But he is averaging 19 fast laps. I mean, it's not horrible, but he's definitely on the outside of Kyle Busch and Martin Truex, in my opinion, but he does offer us place differential upside, and he could easily top 5. So I do have interest in him. And then here's the interesting one this week, Brad Keselowski. He's on the pole, and I was really wishing Kyle Busch would just get on the pole just to make my life easier. So now I'm thinking I'm going to have a little bit of exposure to Brad Keselowski. But so he hasn't been as good as Kyle Busch or Truex here, but practice, I mean, he's got a good car. He was 5th in the 10 lap, 3rd in the 10 lap, and the final practice, 5th in the 15 lap. So, I mean, he's got a decent car. Not decent, he's got a good car, but only averaging 33 DraftKings points per race here, 91 driver rating. So, as you can see, his numbers are, they're far below the high-end guys in this this price range. So, that's a little bit concerning. He doesn't have any wins in, the recent races. But, I mean, he's going to have to lead laps, and if he can lead the early stage and then finish top 5, he's going to pay off. He should pay off, but the problem is I could just see Kyle Busch taking him fast, and then, he could end up fading, kind of like what he did last week. So I do have a little bit concerned with Brad Keselowski, but I am going to probably have a little bit of exposure to him, but I'm definitely going to be higher, going to have higher exposure to Busch and Truex, and I also did add average running position in here, so that's just where they're running during the race, the whole entire race, as you can see. And Keselowski's average running position is 10, and Kyle Busch and Truex, they're both in top 4, so that's what really separates them from me. They're just very elite here. And that's enough out of this tier. Well, actually, I'll talk about Joey Logano. I'll just talk about the tiers here. So Joey Logano, 10,300. I just don't like him here. He's qualified 8th, and he just hasn't been very good here. So if you look at his final practice, he was 19th in the 10 lap, 14th in the 15 lap. His numbers aren't strong here in the practice department, and neither in his track history department. He's only averaging 35 points per race, 80 driver rating, which is far below the guys in this tier. His highest driver rating at this track was 92. No wins. Only in the top 5, 20% of the time. I mean, most likely he's going to top 10. But even so, we need more than that at 10,300. We need him to get up front and lead laps. So not looking to use him. He hasn't even led any laps since 2016 here. So not too interested in Joey Logano. His average running position would be 15. So I'm not too interested in Joey Logano, and you shouldn't be either. Chase Elliott kind of just falls in a gray area for me. I'm not going to really have any exposure to him. I think he's going to have to get up and lead laps and get up front and lead laps, and I just don't see that happening, really. And this is a fun tier here. We got 2 really nice plays in Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson. I have the blue guys as my place differential guys. And 9,700, Denny Hamlin. He's one of my favorite plays of the week. I know he's going to be going to the rear, but he's going to get back up front. He's qualified 23rd. And this is one of his good tracks. He's really good at flat tracks. And if you can see in practice, he was 7th in the 10 lap in practice 2, then 10th in practice 3, and then 8th in the 15 lap. And his track history is what I really like here. So if we look, he's got an average driver rating of 100. He's at as high as 131. Average finish of 10 here. So as long as he doesn't wreck, he's gonna finish way above where he started. He does have a win as well in the top 5, 20% of the time. And as what I like to see here is he's in the top 20, 100% of the time. So he's pretty much a guarantee for good place differential points as long as he doesn't wreck. So I do like Denny Hamlin quite a bit, and he's an average running position of 9.4. So I think that's going to be pretty good play tomorrow. I know it's pretty expensive, but I do think he's an elite play. And then Kyle Larson, he's another guy that's going to the back in a backup car, but he's been very good here as well. In practice, he was pretty good. Don't look at that practice 2 there. It's when he crashed, so he doesn't have any data there. But in the practice 3, he was 6th in the 10 lap and 2nd in the 15 lap. So, I mean, he's got a good car, and he's going to have to make up some ground early on, but I think he can top 10 here and have a pretty good race. He's averaging 51 DraftKings points per race here. Good driver rating. It wins, but he's in the top 10 60% of the time. So, I mean, more than likely, he's going to get us good place differential points, average running position of 10.6. So, I mean, he's looking like a good play to me. I could see him going under own because he's going to be starting in the rear, starting 15th, but I do think he's a pretty good GPP option. And then Kurt Busch and Erik Jones, I'm just not too interested in them at that price. I know Erik Jones had a fantastic practice too, but starting 4th, I just have no interest, especially when guys like Kyle Busch, Martin Truex, and Brad Keselowski are all up there. And let's talk about Alex Bowman. He's the interesting guy this week. He's 8,800. He's starting dead last. So it makes him the safest play. But with the way he's driving, that concerns me. But he's still going to be my highest owned driver. I'm going to put that to the side. Hopefully he can grow up a little bit during race time. I'm just kidding. He's a good driver. But, practice wasn't too good. But we're going to give that, we're going to cut him some slack in practice because he's having a rough weekend in that department. Really, there's not much to talk about. I mean, he doesn't have the best history here, but he's been having a really good season so far. And starting 37th, he's going to move up. I think I have him projected to finish around like 18. So, I mean, it's going to be with a much higher ceiling as well as that. So, I do like Alex Bowman a lot. He's one of my core plays. And then Ryan Blaney. I have my yellow guys as GPP options, and I really like him heading into the weekend. As a GPP option. Not someone I'm going to be too high on, but he's got a really fantastic car. He qualified 5th, which, that sucks, but man, his car is good. Practice 2, he was 2nd in the 10 lap, and then practice 3, he was 1st in the 10 lap and 1st in the 15 lap. So, I mean, he's got an amazing long run speed car, and that's what we want here. I mean, his track history isn't like the bomb, but I mean, it's decent. Average finish of 11, though, that's not very good, but his practice numbers are really what's standing out for me. And he might have the car to beat this weekend with Kyle Busch and Martin Truex. So I do like Ryan Blaney as a GPP option. Clint Boyer, not too interesting. Clint Boyer there. Someone maybe he might go under owned, but not someone I'm really targeting too much. But I could see maybe putting him in a few lineups. Almirola is someone I'm probably not going to have too much exposure to either. And then Jimmie Johnson. This is a GPP option, but he's 8K. And he's pretty cheap here. He qualified 10th, and I actually do think he's probably going to finish around 10th, but he's been having a decent turnaround to the season. Decent practice, 8th in the 10 lap in practice 2, 15th in the 10 lap in practice 3, which isn't the best, but not too bad here. If you look at his numbers, he's got an average driver rating of 96, and he's in the top 10 60% of the time. So, I mean, chances are he's going to finish where he started or above. So I do like Jimmie a little bit. I mean, not like a core play for me or anything, but I do think he is in play. His average running position is 9, so I mean, that's above where he starts. So I do like Jimmie Johnson. And then, although I will say the Hendrick cars are not looking too hot this weekend. And I know William Byron, he had some trouble. And then, obviously, Alex Bowman, so. And then if we go to this tier, Daniel Suarez, not someone I'm really on, starting 13th. But Ryan Newman, he's starting 26th. So I think there's just obvious place differential upside. I'm not going to go too in-depth on these guys. But, I mean, the practice wasn't very good or anything. Well, I'm looking at the wrong side. Never mind. He was 11th in the 10 lap in practice 2, 17 in P3. So, I mean, there's obvious place differential here. I don't think he's an absolutely elite play. But I do think that at that price, he stands out at a pretty good value. Then Byron starting 22nd. He's in play. He's not a core play for me, but I do have interest in him. But he is starting in the rear, which kind of sucks. That might hurt him a little bit in the beginning, and then he could maybe run into some trouble. So not a core play by any means, but I do think he's interesting. And Stenhouse, not really. Chris Buescher, not someone I'm probably going to be on too much. I'd honestly rather play Austin Dillon starting 21st for a little bit cheaper. I mean, Chris Buescher's a fine play, but not someone I'm going to be too high on. But let's talk about Austin Dillon. He's starting 21st. He's 6,900. I just think it's a pretty good value. He's decent in practice. 17th in the 10 lap, 13th in practice 3 in the 10 lap, and then 11th in the 15 lap. So, I mean, his car's pretty decent. And what I like is he's got some decent history here. He's in the top 20%, 80% of the time here. He's in the top 20, 80% of the time here. Average finish of 16, which that's not bad for someone in this price range. That's higher than the guys in here. I don't even have data for Hamrick and Priest because they're rookies, but if you look at the guys in this tier, it's quite above the rest here. And he's got an average running position of, we can take a look here, of 19. So it's not bad. I do think it's a pretty decent value. I could see him going under own because, starting 21st isn't the best. So don't mind him. And Paul Menard, not really interested in him. Matt DiBenedetto starting 7th. That's a complete fade for me. Hemrick, not really interested in 19th. And the cheap plays. Not many good cheap plays this weekend. But I don't mind Ty Dillon starting 18th. Now, I know he's starting pretty high up there, but I think he can finish around there. Practice was pretty underwhelming, but if we look at his overall numbers here, I will say he's 15th in the 15 lap, but not many cars ran 15 laps in practice. But he's averaging 30 DraftKings points per race at New Hampshire, which is pretty good, especially in this price range. And if we look at his average finish, that's 20. So, I mean, if he loses 2 spots, hey, he's only 6,200 though, and if he can get a top 20, that'd be fantastic. So I wouldn't mind using some Ty Dillon. Then Ryan Priest starting 28th. He's just starting too far back for me. I think he can move up a few spots. I'm not expecting a huge race out of him, but I do like him at that price. And McDowell, not too interested. Bubba Wallace starting 27th. He actually had a decent practice. 16th in P2, 23rd in P3, and then 16th in the 15 lap. Although I don't think I think only 19 cars ran the 15 lap average, so might be a little skewed a little bit. But I don't mind Bubba Wallace. And then Matt Tiff, 5,300. He's just one of the guys I've been using to punt this season. He hasn't been terrible. I think he's at an average finish total this season of like 27. So 5,300. It's a decent punt. I mean, he should get a top 30, I'd imagine. That's really all we need. And I think that's all I want to talk about. I'm fading Matt DiBenedetto, and that's really the only lockdown fade I have at the moment. Yeah, guys, I kind of just did a driver-by-driver breakdown, I guess. I wasn't planning on doing that, but it's just how it came out. My laptop's about to die, so good thing we're done now. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for the video. If you want access to this cheat sheet, my projections, my write-up, Slack chat, and the entire cheat sheet, hit the link in the description below. You can get on Patreon. It's pretty cheap, $8 a month you get 4 races. So that's $2 per race. All right, guys. Like I said, remember to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate that. Follow me on Twitter at ChrisPinell16. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for baseball.